Did you miss me? Don't worry, I'm just getting started.
I am not done yet!
Hello, welcome back to my channel, your man with a plan. This is your guy Jay, and today I'm gonna talk about how to take care of your debt, or basically like how to tackle your debt. There are just two main schools of thought when it comes to tackling your debt. It's called debt snowball or debt avalanche. They're both completely different based on how much money you have to put in towards the debt and how are you planning to pay it off. Comparing it towards like paying off the smallest one off first or paying the highest interest off one first. Both of the strategies have their own pros and cons, and it's important to think about which one you go with, but at the end of the day, the goal is the same, to pay off the debt as soon as possible. So regardless of whichever one you pick, your end goal would be the same. Let's go with the snowball technique first. So what is debt snowball? Basically that means that you start taking off the smallest debt off from your list, and then you move on to the bigger one, and then the bigger, and then the bigger, going from your smallest amount of debt to the biggest one, taking stuff off from your checklist, which actually inspires you more to keep going rather than just giving up when you're doing the avalanche method, because avalanche method is completely opposite to it. In that one, you attack your highest interest one first. But sometimes your highest interest one could be the bigger amount as compared to a smaller amount that you have with the lower interest, because normally people get frustrated when they're trying to pay off a big amount of debt off first because of their higher interest. It takes them a while, and because of that they don't see any kind of like visible progress being made right away. Because of that they get demotivated, and then they stop paying off of them on their debt and then start using their money for making ridiculous purchases again. That's why it's important to know the pros and cons of both of them first, and one key main factor which applies in both of the debt payoff techniques is consistency. You cannot pay off your debt unless you're being consistent at all times. Let's work with some examples, shall we? So in the example over here, you could see like you have like several different type of loans. Let's say like a car loan, a credit card loan, a house loan, and every different loan amount has like a different type of interest person applying on it. Now, if you're using the debt snowball technique, then the order is pretty self-explanatory. You go from the smallest amount to the biggest amount. So your first one you would attack is this one. Once you get rid of that one, then you would move on to the next one, and then the next, and then the next. But let's say if you're using the debt avalanche technique, where you're trying to pay off the highest interest off first because you don't want to pay interest for the longest time possible. If you pay off your higher interest loans first, then you end up paying less interest to the companies later down the road. So avalanche technique is helpful in that way. If you're going through the avalanche technique, then your first one you would attack would be this one. So that would be your number one rather than the 3K one as the smallest amount. After that you would attack the 9.5 because that's the second highest, and then the third highest, and with the very last one. That way, if you look at it in a bigger timeline, you're paying less money towards the interest and paying more and more money towards the principal of the amount when you're using the debt avalanche technique. People always prefer the debt snowball technique because of the psychological payoff it comes with. So when you have 15 items on the list and you start getting rid of 2 or 3 items, and you only have like 12 or 11 items left on your list, then it kind of promotes you more to keep going, much rather than being hung up on that 15th item trying to get it off the list just because it's a bigger number with a bigger interest on it. So that's why like even people like Dave Ramsey, they prefer debt snowball technique, but I personally prefer the debt avalanche technique depending on the type of interest and the amount of loan you have. Personally, I've already laid out my pie chart and my finances to you before, but let me just go over it real quick again. So my credit card debt is about 2.5K at roughly about 21%, I believe. Next up is my car loan, which is about 8K at about 4%. Again, it's just a ballpark figure, so I don't know the exact numbers right now. And my last one is my student loan, which is about 50K at about 4%. I think my car loan is 8%, not 4. So let me just improve that real quick. So if I'm using the debt avalanche technique, it would only make sense that I would go with the highest interest off first, then the second, and last the third one. But if I'm using the debt snowball technique, which one would I pay it off first?
Wait a minute.
Works in my favor, huh? Actually, debt snowball or debt avalanche, they both kind of work in my favor because my loans are pretty much placed like that with the interest rates and everything. However, it does not apply to everyone because everyone has their own loans and their own interest rates. That's why it's important to know the snowball versus the avalanche and the pros and cons about both of them. Once again, like I've mentioned, the snowball technique, the pro part about it is like it gives you like a huge psychological relief because you could start taking stuff off your list, and that would help keep you promoted to keep going and paying off your debt. So the pro part about debt avalanche is that you get more bang for your buck, and towards the end of your goal, you are paying like the lowest interest loan, and majority of those payments are going more towards your principal amount rather than the interest amounts. Like I said, there are cons about both of them as well. Con part about the debt snowball is that it will take you a longer duration as compared to the debt avalanche method pay off your overall loans. But in the debt avalanche method, it will take you less time, but it will take some time to see some kind of visible progress. At the end of the day, your end goal remains the same, that you are trying to get rid of your debt and you trying to reach the point of debt freedom. So it doesn't really matter which technique you go off with, but it is important that you do take care of your finances and you do pay off your debt before you start saving and investing your money. I just got done finishing this course, which took me a while, and because of that I was not able to record videos, but don't worry about it. I'm trying my best to make up for it, and I will be posting 2 videos a week from now on. And we're almost done covering the personal financing aspect. Once we're done with that, we will dive more into saving and investing your money, and my future videos will be based all about that. So please stay tuned and like, share and subscribe my video. It would help me out tremendously. Until then, thank you very much and have a good one.